summer, green is like, was it?
A lot of big guys do. All those guys, all those big guys do is reach out on face on the product.
Oh, really?
We all feel their
If folks don't mind, what we'll do is get started. We're starting a little late, and I apologize. I know at least one person's got some time constraints. But thank you very much for making it here today. The goal of today is to give you a little update. We've been carrying on our agenda an item called 6-month schedule. Essentially what we're going to do is a 3-month schedule. We're going to tell you what's going to happen over the summer, and then in September we'll convene again to review what happened in the summer and then give a little going forward presentation. Essentially what's happened, as you may be aware since we were last together, is we brought on a new OPM, PCA 360, but there was continuity in terms of one of the members. Tom Kerwin is still with us. In addition, we've got Bond Brothers now kind of fully on board. I believe now you're being paid for your work, so that's a good sign. Yeah. So what I was going to do was just ask folks from the construction team, the private sector team, to kind of introduce themselves a bit. I don't know that we need to necessarily introduce everyone on the building committee again to you folks. We may forego that just for purposes of moving the meeting along. But do you want to start, Brian, just by introducing yourself a bit and letting
Well,
it
some
know?
of you happen to be on the team. Quincy resident with PCA 360, working with Tom Kerwin, who's our project director. He was with NV5. He's now on our team, our company, so happy to be on the project, working on the Sterling Middle School.
Great.
Tom will be with us shortly. So.
Yeah, Tom's in traffic. You may recall one of the reasons we made the transition here on the OPM is we had hit a point in the project where we had received our project funding agreement, and now we're moving forward on construction. And essentially the company that was our OPM got bought out by a bigger operation based in Ohio rather than the company we hired, which was based here in Mass. So we're very happy with the transition. Brian mentioned he's in Quincy. The way I met him was in 2008 or so when he was a neighborhood, not activist, but neighborhood person working on a
Local
playground
civic
project,
organization,
yeah,
yeah.
down in Howe's Neck. And that's how we met. So Brian's very involved in the community, and it's a nice component of the fact that, he's with the OPM company. So we're lucky for that. And then we'll let, if you'd like to, or however you want to address the Bond Brothers presentation. And our architects are here, as they are always. You need no introduction.
We're just in the background.
Right, yeah, which isn't a bad thing. Yeah, may you stay there at this point. Right. All right.
I'll just say a quick hello. Hi, I'm Ken Johnson. I'm Vice President of Bond Brothers, and we're excited to be part of your team delivering the new Sterling Middle School. Joining me today, Dave Capaldo is our project manager. Dave is your day-to-day guy on the job. He's been now on the project almost a year now with estimating and pre-construction planning. So we're going to share, I think, some very high-level overview of what's going to be taking place fairly soon.
Terrific. Yeah, Dave will be the guy in particular. You know our folks from Sterling pretty well, I know. Perhaps the principal of Lincoln Hancock as well. We'll be interacting with a bit, but he'll be our face for the contract on site. So that's kind of it's agenda item 2, reintroduction of project team. And what I wanted to do now is just have Dave take over. He's going to give us an overview of what's happening, essentially starting April vacation. That's when we're going to start working on things and going forward, so you can be informed. Okay. Go ahead.
Great. So it's great to finally be plugged in and to get to see everybody for the first time. Been working with OJ for a long time, and we're now get up and ready to actually make things happen. Right now we have sort of a two-headed approach. We have one sort of focus on the bid phase and getting the subcontractors lined up. And on Thursday, we will receive filed subbids, filed subs being trade contractors that are broken up into sections required by Mass General Law. And then at the same time, Bond has all of the other trades bidding at the same time. And hopefully we'll be able to pull those together and work towards a GP so after all the bids are in. So that's sort of one side of our task right now is to have the bidding and subcontractors procure. The other side is the actual work side, and we have been strategizing the best approach for a long time now on how to get started. This job will be best suited if we can hit the target date for steel right around Thanksgiving. So working towards that goal, we're trying to find everything we can possibly do to maximize our schedule potential up to that date. So we looked at all different things, but essentially what it came down to was if we could do some limited abatement early ahead of taking the building down, a piece of the building down, we can walk through a little bit. But obviously, because the design, the way the building is situated, we're going to take a small chunk of the back of the existing building off, because the new building in. That being the most critical component for everything that follows it. And the sooner we can take the building down, the better chance we have of meeting that steel target date. So by doing a little bit of abatement early, that gets us the opportunity to start taking down that section of the building we take down as quick as we can. So we looked at all kinds of options, different strategies, and we came to the conclusion that if we could, and we got everybody, we built consensus, and everybody was happy with the approach. We could do a few days worth of work over this April vacation period. That would buy us essentially a week's worth of work prior to taking the building down. And that week is worth it. So we looked at different ways to make that happen effectively and safely. A strategy of course how to do that, and that work starts Friday. So obviously there's no students in the building that day. After that, essentially we have 3 days worth of work. We're planning on working Friday. Monday is a noon holiday, so that will not go Monday. Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and by Wednesday night we should have, or Thursday, sometime Thursday, we should have clean air reports certified that the building is safe to re-enter. We have a couple days of fluff there just to make sure in case there was any sort of one area that maybe had some containment problem or something. We go back in and over those 2 days, plus really feel safe for the weekend. So there's really no chance that we won't have any problems reopening the building. It's just there's 2 safety needs to close them, but should pretty much guarantee that it's not an issue. So you'll have, for everybody's comfort level, there'll be clean air reports that it's safe to re-enter the building and shouldn't be an issue. So that's our plan for the sort of immediate future. And then looking down the path a little bit, we can go through sort of some imagery and slides, or just sort of general speaking, we're looking at taking the rear end of the site, the Robert Street side, where basically, we can show you a little bit more detail when I show the slides, but basically we're separating to the best of our ability the students from the construction operation. The entire operation will start, from our perspective, the construction side off Robert Street, and you'll continue to use Grand Street as the sort of public side of the school.
Interrupt you before you get into that. Does anyone from either, the school community or parents or school committee, do you have any questions about the April work? Because I know you're kind of just, well, perhaps you were just learning about it. I know you're need any amplification on what's going on next week? Or is that out there? Okay. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So it might be easiest, just since we sort of transition to sort of specifics, this first slide is when, basically in May, we're going to be focused on procuring subcontractors and lining everybody up and getting materials approved for purchase, that kind of thing. So after April vacation, you won't see much activity on site, but there'll be plenty of activity back at the office gearing up for the push, which begins on June 1st. So, as I was saying, our operation will use Robert Street primarily for our traffic and operations into the back of the site. So the plan is to enter from Robert Street for our construction operation. And then, of course, Granite Street will be off limits to construction traffic, and that will allow you to sort of maintain your natural flow of operation as you typically do it. We plan to maintain a pedestrian way on the, what's called the unnamed way, the back end of these here. So, you know, we know there's some walkers and some traffic, some pedestrian traffic that is sort of known and customary. So we're going to try to preserve that to the best of our ability. Separated, of course, by a construction fence and potentially some barriers if that's necessary to keep the separation as we can. So, so for the month of June, we're hoping to start to, we'll get the fence up, we'll start mobilizing, we're going to set our office trailers at, I will be on site when the site is in operation, in addition to our superintendents, they'll be there full time as well. So it won't be for any lack of oversight that we won't have any, hopefully have any issues with traffic there. I'll be sort of facing this pedestrian way, so hopefully we can try to keep that as safe as possible if there's use of it. We plan to, again, put up the fence. The fence will work the perimeter and keep the operation clear from use of the school. So that's our sort of overall site plan for June. There is some limited work inside the existing building that we may try to pull off after school hours. There's some shoring work above the stage that we might try to pull and get that done ahead of time too, but we'll be in discussions about that. But primarily we're looking at doing some work in the basement where the facilities group was previously staged. That sort of won't be in your way either. And of course, we'll be starting to pull utilities and strip the site and get it ready for demolition, which will follow. This is just a two-dimensional plan of what we just showed you, aerial form, really nothing different, just a little bit clearer detail on some of the separation that we're looking at. This is, we 3D modeled the existing site so that you sort of get a good sense of what this is going to look like. So that's our construction entrance where that pedestrian traffic may be maintained. This is prior to us moving the fence back over, so at some point we're going to put the new sidewalk in and then turn that back over to you for the school year, the following school year, so that will be done in essentially a better condition than we have now for the following school year. But that's sort of how close we're going to be. It's definitely obviously pretty tight. So that's just an overhead of that same thing. So again, so at first our fence will be over here until we develop that sidewalk, and then for the following school year, we'll come and we fence back up with that sidewalk in place. I think one of the things that's sort of good about this plan, like finally, because Tom will say this, I guarantee you if I didn't say it for him, this sort of approach of us starting prior to some vacations, a little test for the following school, we kind of work out any little tweaks or bugs, or if you come to us and say, hey, it'd be really nice if we could accommodate this. This gives us a chance to do that before school starts in September. So it's, I think the idea is a good one to start a little early and sort of work out. So this is phase 2. This is the summer of 17, and as we talked about, the big thing for us is be able to tear down the section of existing building that is in the way of the new construction. That is the key to keeping the schedule. And obviously that's a pretty intense piece of work, and we do not want the building occupied while we do that. So as soon as we can, so there's a little bit of work that has to happen before we can physically start ripping the building down, but that's sort of cut cap and say, just get it ready to go. And as soon as we possibly can, once the building's unoccupied, we will start our demolition operation working from the existing locker rooms across the gym and over to the force building. That's sort of the sequence of how that will flow. And we're hoping to start that as quick as we can in the summer and work our way out. Again, it's sort of a 2D version of what that looks like. Sort of a major cut operation to get the new building in. There's a steep cut of the existing earth back here in this corner. So a pretty significant hole developed to get into the building. And this is phase 3A, which is the early fall. So this is basically the first sequence after you return to school. Again, hopefully this sidewalk's in by that point to maintain that pedestrian way, and then we'll be starting the foundations for that next phase. And that's kind of the big overview. Again, same thing, everything will happen from Robert Street for our activities, and we'll have an operation for Falling Square. It's kind of broad strokes.
So you're all set?
Good, unless there's questions or.
Does anyone have any questions for Dave?
Question about Roberts, the traffic on Roberts. Is that gonna be two-way traffic throughout the summer, or is that gonna be, or is there gonna be any change to traffic pattern for the neighborhood?
I think that's still in discussion. We have a traffic, sort of a thought about traffic, but we're working together with the city right now to finalize it.
But
Yeah,
when
this-
you're filing, you don't anticipate a change before the next school year, you're still that far.
Part of what we're doing is this. Bonds told us how they want to proceed. They submitted this entire proposal, it's a plan that's pretty much going to be implemented. But to the extent things like traffic and other issues are implicated, that's been submitted to us. The traffic engineer is reviewing it. The ward counselor is going to look at it. And we're going to have one more community meeting. I'm setting that up with Brad Kroll and Brian Palmucci, similar to the one we had at Lincoln Hancock. But we're going to have a meeting like that and get input from the community as well. And then we'll finalize the traffic scenario, yeah. There's some things we're trying to do with parking, like where the folks who are working at the site, where they park, how we're going to have temporary park when they return in September. So those are all things we're working out and will work out as we transition forward.
And the timeline then for answering those questions is before the phase 1 in June? Or are you expect the traffic and or the community event to happen before June? Or are we really talking about over the summer before the fall? Those questions?
No, I think it's pretty much, we're trying to get it all done concurrently. So we're going to get it done as quickly as we can. Because Bond needs to know for its planning purposes. They may end up hearing something from us that they don't necessarily, I shouldn't say don't like, but may not be fully comfortable with. And so, they want to have all this stuff resolved. It's somewhat akin to what Dave mentioned earlier, where Tom mentioned about doing some things now so we can get the reaction of the school
Right,
community.
yeah.
So part of getting a project like this underway and moving is, in the Northeast, you're subject to the winter season impact, So we try to get as much done as quickly as we can in order to, address the seasonal issues. So some of that necessarily means that it's going to be a little messy, and there's going to be different inputs on different things that you might not plan, or you might plan otherwise if this were school in Phoenix. Anything else at all?
Just access to the building during the abatement phase and such. My understanding is no one will be allowed in the building whatsoever until it's clear.
Yep.
And then when school ends, is that going to happen immediately June 23rd? Or would it be prior to the actual coming down of the building?
You sound like you're trying to have us get you out of the building.
Yeah. He'll have me working. I don't
We'll find his fun.
Yeah, the Franceschini suite is being worked on up on the second floor.
I'm only asking that because a lot of the teachers, when school ends, still do some work in like the following week, especially to sort of put things away, get ready for the next year, and that's been one of their questions.
Right.
Is will we have that time, or will we not have that time? Because if it's not going to be available, we just would have to adjust how we're going to do that in the course of May and June. That's all.
That's been talked about. We talked about that a couple of times. I think what we were sort of the working assumption that we have now is for the areas that we will be demoing, the gym, locker room, that rear stair tower, and then 4 stories of classrooms, that's when we can talk about some time. That's obviously getting a little bit back. We would like to be able to sort of clear out of that and get into those spaces that we're going to take down as quick as we can immediately. Obviously, the rest of the building, we don't really need to be in initially, so that week is fine. But the areas that we're going to actually take down, we would like to get in there as quick as we can.
I think within 1 or 2 weeks, I think we'll be ready to meet with the staff and talk about a lot of issues, a timeline, what classrooms need to be vacated, and when they need to be vacated, where they're headed, some minor construction, that will happen, for you, so we'll talk about all that in the timeline. Probably next week or the week after, try to meet with staff, along with the community meeting somehow. So we'll get all that tied together for you.
One of the things we've been trying to do is work through like a chain of command to make communication as efficient as possible. So we'll work on that, and anytime you need to speak to someone, you can get that access. We may have it go through you, and I know like Walter and public buildings and everything, we're trying to work out how to have a chain of command on our side too. So we're working out the communication, but you'll always have access to people. It's just who you go to get it. And definitely the teachers will have that full input before, well in advance of when they might want to be planning their exit strategy. Pardon? Oh, that will be impacted, right. The teacher parking for the month of June.
Keeping the fence back.
Yeah, I think the plan was to show the slide. So we did anticipate putting the fence up off that back area, which would affect teacher parking in June. But that's a
So how do you mobile? Well, that might be something we have to discuss.
Yeah. Depending on what arrangements are made.
How many spaces in that area? It's like 8 or 10, is it?
From the corner of the building, there's probably about 20 to 22 spaces in there.
I think in the end we talked about 20 total spaces.
All right.
We can certainly work on
I'll
that.
have to, I may have missed that.
We need to take the windows out and work on this back corner, so we definitely right now.
I know that you stepped out, the teacher parking on the rear corner. Are you aware, has that been, because I don't go to those meetings, this rear corner in June, do you know how the timing's going to work with the work that Bond wants to start doing and how it might impact teacher parking?
No, we don't really talk about that. I don't know the impact, you're talking about within the month of June?
Right.
Before the teachers take off.
Before they leave. Yeah, I had missed that fact.
There's a certain amount of flexibility, I think.
We can be flexible.
Oh, we can, yeah,
We
we're also,
haven't, as you point out, we haven't fine-tuned that yet. We're going to meet with the
we're also
staff.
gonna be with Paul Franz as well, to see what we can do. Did you mention the fence coming down, a curb cut or anything like that? I mean, that's stuff that we still need to iron out. I think the significant inconvenience is that they're not gonna have those regular parking spaces. But the convenience is they don't have to go to 3 streets over and we a little minibus for them and that sort of stuff. So that, I think that worked out pretty well.
It'll be on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mention the alternate parking area.
Again, on the communication chain, I don't go, there's project meetings every Thursday, right? Or something,
Every other Thursday.
every other Thursday. I don't attend those because it's not what I'm doing, but Tom will know the answers to things like that. Walter is attending them, Brian, and so that's another evolving issue. All right. Any other questions at all? All right, I may ask, Well, why don't we ask, Scott, do you want to give any updates at all, just briefly, about what's going on? I know you had mentioned you had some interior shots that maybe we'll roll out at the public meeting. And this isn't intended as a pop quiz, just kind of
I think I can cover
very
it.
comfortable.
Just happen to have a thumb drive, I think that has said product on it. Let me just make this computer work. Just do a little skit or a little show or something to distract us.
While Scott's queuing that up, I don't know, Walter, if you wanted to share any thoughts from the public building perspective, because you have been going to those Thursday meetings.
Yeah, we're making a lot of progress, I think. I think Vaughn has done an excellent job as far as preparing the logistics plan. Obviously, there's some things that we know we're lying out as we get more conversations. But, you know, we're very pleased with the thought that's gone into it. We're happy that the abatement can take place in April, and we can do it in a few days, and we'll have clearances, so the building will be fine. Won't be anyone in the building at all, and any custodians won't be able to be safe. And we're taking every precaution that we can. We're obviously sensitive to the parking issues for teachers, and hopefully we can address that. Obviously, the teachers come first before the we'll find off-site parking for the contract. Yeah, I'm sure it's doing, but obviously the staff comes first, and there's little disruption as possible to students and your daily classroom tour. So, you know, we're very sensitive to that. I think what I like is Bond's very sensitive to it, and so is PCA 360. So we want to be totally transparent. Obviously, you know, we get this information, and we wait for a meeting like this to kind of share it, because there's so many bits and pieces that are out there. But I know from the public buildings side, we're very pleased at this point with the direction we're headed.
Perfect. Take it away.
Thank you, Walter. Just as a reminder, I know everybody has seen it, but this is the main level building floor plan, the parking lot, and, excuse me, Granite Street side is over here, and that's that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade entry, and then this is the 5th grade entry. So we're going to take a look at some of the images of the interior of the building. We'll be taking a look at this student dining area, both from the 2nd floor and from the main floor level. We'll be taking a look at one of these project-based learning areas that are at the core of each academic neighborhood. As a reminder, this is a 5th grade academic neighborhood, this is a 6th grade academic neighborhood, and on the upper floors, we have a 7th and 8th grade academic neighborhood in those same locations. And that's composed of a series of classrooms that wraps around kind of an open, what we call a maker space, or a project-based learning space, which is a lab-like space that students can come out of the classrooms and work on interdisciplinary instruction, or it may be a single classroom coming out into that space. So we'll take a look at what the image of that space might look like, and then what the image of an actual classroom might look like. This is the view that you've seen a number of times from Granite Street of the outside, and then from the Robert Street side, the outside of the building. And then also from the Robert Street side, just a little further. And then the far view from Granite Street. But then this is the inside of the building. Right inside the main lobby space, the student dining area is just up and on your left in this space. And it's a 2-story volume. and then there are connecting walkways that get you across. So what you're seeing right here is you've just come in the lobby. If you were to turn right, you could go down into the 5th grade academic neighborhood, or you can take the stair directly up to the next level, the 2nd floor. This is looking from the same perspective, except you're turned more towards that dining space that I said was on your left. That's that main stair that I described. And if you went directly right, you'd be going into the 5th grade academic neighborhood. And you can see just in the distance up here is the media center on the 2nd floor. This is that same student dining space, but now we're on the opposite side of the space. So this is the glass wall that looks out towards Robert Street, and we're looking back across the student dining area. We're looking at that walkway that brings students from the 7th and 8th grade neighborhoods across to the library media center, all the kitchen and dining and service areas down here on the lower level to your right. And that's the main entry lobby as we're looking back. You can't really see the actual entry vestibule. The entrance would be coming from that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade entry right there. Now we're on the upper floor level looking down into the cafeteria. The entry lobby is somewhat below us on the main floor level. We're looking at the library media center and the art rooms across over here, and then we can see down into the student dining area, and then we can see that main stair coming up from the lower floor level, bringing us to the 2nd floor level. This is inside the library media center, and there is a significant window that looks out towards across the fields and out towards Robert Street from the library media center. A series of kiosk and student exhibit space set up for the library media center. A modern middle school library media center is much different than what it was like certainly when I was there. And there's a lot more interactive, exhibit-driven, put the student work on display, interactive kiosk elements to the library media center in terms of opportunities for students to take advantage of media retrieval. This is one of those common areas where the classrooms are wrapping around this project-based lab, and there'll be flexible furniture out in this area so that when classrooms do come out into this area to join on a project, this is a typical classroom that's wrapping around that area. There's another typical classroom, but if you could see them, there are also classrooms behind us kind of wrapped around that entire central area of the academic neighborhood. Shots of the typical classroom on the top there and on the bottom. This is by the auditorium and gymnasium. This is the auditorium and gymnasium vestibule. We're looking into the gymnasium on this side and down the hallway to the auditorium entry. Same thing where we're looking into the gymnasium there. And then inside the gymnasium space itself. Inside the auditorium. Also inside of this auditorium, standing on the stage and looking back. That's it.
Thank you. It's bad for pop quiz. Thanks. Any questions at all? The architect?
By the way, let me just jump in for a second. I'm Tom Kerwin, and I know most of you before.
People were all excited they want to get out of here on 5.
Yeah.
Tom Bruin's got the floor.
I just wanted to make sure I said hello. The city of Boston decided to get out of work early today, so it took me a little longer than anticipated to get here. But you met Brian. And there are numbers of others of us at PCA 360 that are very much looking forward to this. So I'm glad to be working on the team, and I think we made, as Walter pointed out, significant strides here in the next couple of months to keep on schedule and to we're going to be opening bids now, as you discussed, in the next week or so, and we're full steam ahead.
One of the things that happened, well, a few things happened, but once we made the decision to go to a new OPM, that necessarily could have delayed the project. The SBA worked very well with us to to allow us to continue moving forward. And frankly, the architect, AI3's Scott's company, and also Bond Brothers, they both did a lot of work last fall without getting, paid yet. They were working essentially on account and did a lot of work to keep things moving. So the combination of that work and those efforts, for which we're very grateful, because we were able to really keep this project moving along, was very important and very big. And then also retaining Tom's presence on the project and actually picking up another Quincy guy, Brian. Brian's been great, because anytime we've needed anything, he's either dropping it off on his way into work or dropping it off on his way home, and everyone in City Hall knows Brian now pretty much, because he's right down the street. So there's been a lot of good continuity here, and we've been able to keep this thing moving very well, so we're delighted for that. So we fulfilled the purpose of the meeting, which was essentially to let you know what's coming, because now suddenly there's going to be activity at the site. I was going to ask if you wanted to say anything. Did you have anything else you wanted to offer out?
Not really, except that I heard a couple of questions about are we going to have parking or this and so on and so forth. A lot of the plan, as they pointed out, is pretty well in place. We've got it worked out. But one thing we should all remember is that we are going to be watching this all the time, interacting. Dr. Francourt, was at the school, and Jim and Dr. DeCristofaro, so that Walter to collect feedback. So we think we put a good plan in place, but we're going to improve that plan as we go along. Each day is a learning opportunity for us too, as to how's this working or not working. Can we fix something? And so feedback is good. And we're going to take that feedback and respond to it. And as Dave pointed out a little while ago, the nice thing about starting a little bit of this year is it gives us a chance to see if there's any issues at all that we need to work out, and that gives us the whole summer to kind of work through them, so we all start fresh in September, not just beginning this process, but having done some of it already this year. So that's the only thing I would say, that our plans, I think, have been thoughtfully worked through. That doesn't mean, though, that we're not going to try to tweak it along the way. So if there's something that isn't quite working right, we have a team here that's experienced in doing this, but also very thoughtful, and very committed to the idea that, as we've said from the beginning, the school's got to keep operating. The students have to continue to learn. The teachers have to continue to teach. That's paramount. That's the biggest priority. And we're going to just sort of get this done alongside of that. So that's the mentality, is that if something's not right, we're going to work hard to fix it. Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, I'm thrilled with the team we have, and making tremendous progress, and we'll iron out as we go. And as Tom says, we'll just keep communicating and letting people know exactly what's going on.
Well, any questions at all from anyone? As was mentioned, this is going to be his job for Bond, so he's stuck here. It was very good of you to come out, Ken. Appreciate that. He's got one of those offices with a window at Bond. Yeah, thank you very much.
My trailer has it.
So one other thing, we've done, we've provided a little bit of an update, but that doesn't mean that along the way, if ever there's questions, just reach out to us and we'll get you the answers. You could send an email to me, and then I'll funnel it out, or to the superintendent, and we'll get it out to the right people to respond to if anything comes up.
Hey, Jim, one thing, some of the people here may not know each other, so maybe, they could just introduce themselves.
Oh, okay.
Other than the real important people down there.
We can start, they introduce themselves, but if you want, we can go around the room.
These guys are the building committee, it's just, sorry.
I don't know, this is how you guys do it. Our school system's very highly functioning, so we'll follow your practices. Dave, you're first up.
Okay, my name's Dave Scott, I'm the energy technician with the Public Buildings Department.
Hi, I'm Ruth Whitmer. I'm the principal of Lincoln Utah.
I'm John Franciscini, principal of Sterling Middle School.
Courtney Mitchell, the assistant principal of Sterling.
I'm Kristen Perry. I'm a parent at Sterling. I have a 7th grader and a 5th grader.
Kathy Goodwin, from the school.
can introduce yourself, Steve. Yes, but let them all know so they know who you are. Stand up and let them know.
I'm human. I work with him.
You know that something important's going on when Steve shows up at the meeting. Yeah, I bring him in as my agent. So everyone else, yep, no, thank you. That's good of you, yeah. Everyone else kind of knows each other and is familiar, so. We'll probably get back together again in September, maybe around the 3rd week or so. We'll let you guys get reoriented. We know what that's like. And for those who don't know, I always introduce Ruth as the principal who's helping build a school for another principal. Ruth is at Lincoln Hancock, which is in the same neighborhood. So she's been very good to help out here. So, all right. Well, unless there's anything else, we can adjourn. Is that agreeable? So thank you very much for coming, and any questions, just feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Thank you.